Hi, this week's podcast comes to you with a slightly different person in the hot seat. Aya Pariy is the network director for our community, the Decarbonisation Leaders Network. And in this week's episode, we're taking a conversation that she had recently with one of our founding members, Cem Gercek from Carmeuse in Canada, a lime producer with a clear roadmap for decarbonisation. Hope you'll enjoy it.
I'm very excited today to be talking to Cem Gercek, our member, Regional Operations Manager in North America and Decarbonization Leader with Carmeuse. Hello, Cem.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity.
And a little bit about Carmeuse. Carmeuse is a global lime manufacturer, steel and mining company with production facilities in Europe, North America, and Africa. Carmeuse is leading manufacturer of lime, which is used in a variety of industrial construction, soil improvement applications, and solutions that Carmeuse provide. They span across a wide range of industries, including steel, power, road construction, site development, building materials, water, wastewater, agriculture, and more. The headquarters are in Belgium. The group has approximately 4,500 employees and 8,500 customers annually through a global network of 80 plants and 50 limestone quarries. So yes, a global player. And Cem, to get us started, perhaps you can give us a brief introduction of what about Carmeuse and also what is you and your team are focused on.
I think it's worth giving you a bit of background and perspective first on why we focus on decarbonization to begin with. It is really part of our sustainability focus. So sustainability to us has been part of our DNA, what we call it, and we really reinforce its importance continuously. Day to day or long term, we make all our decisions in line with our values and really in alignment with the what we call the 3 pillars of sustainability. So those are people, planet, and prosperity. Our management team really strongly believes that decarbonization is an integral part of being sustainable, and CO2 challenge. So we coined this term for the decarbonization efforts in globally is our priority as a company. For a long time, we have actively engaged in pursuing technologies and practices that will reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. In 2009, that's when we kicked this off, we completed a detailed analysis of our greenhouse gas footprint. And that was our starting point, that's what we're using as a baseline as we build our roadmap to get to net zero by 2050.
And when we talk about the lime industry in general, if you can tell us briefly, where does CO2 come from?
Absolutely. Lime industry is a bit of unique in that sense because there's two main sources of CO2 in our industry. One is CO2 from combustion, because we have to generate heat for the calcination reaction, because we convert calcium carbonate into calcium oxide. For that, we need a lot of heat. That's one source of CO2. The other one is what we call the processed CO2. That is the CO2 driven from calcium carbonate. And major part of our CO2 emissions are process driven, which makes it a big challenge for us. We could do a lot with our combustion emissions in terms of efficiency or different fuels, but the process emissions, there's not much to be done there.
Yeah, very challenging. And so when we talk about roadmap for decarbonization for Carmeuse, what are some key points?
So, I talked about the process emissions. I think that's, similar to cement. That's a big challenge for us. So we're also focusing on our combustion emissions as a first priority because, there's technology available now to mitigate that. So, that's why that's our first priority. That is utilizing biomass or alternative fuels instead of using traditional fossil fuels. We are also looking at working on process efficiency improvements. There's a lot to be said there, but that's one main, I guess, area. And modernizing our equipment is another one. We still have rather older sites, older kilns in use. So modernizing the existing equipment and technology, and we're also developing our own technologies as well. We are heavily focused on process emissions. That is more long term for us, but we're developing means to reduce our process emissions. Also, we have a heavy focus on CCUS as well.
So you are a decarbonization leader, Cem. So in your view, which things are important to have in mind when developing, implementing decarbonization strategy in terms of internal acceptance, alliances, and operations?
Great question. I think that's a challenge for a lot of companies. As I mentioned earlier, sustainability is part of our DNA in Carmeuse for a long time, and our corporate vision is contributing to a better world. So reducing our CO2 footprint really fits well into that vision. But really, I think it's essential for our executive, or any executive management of companies to grasp the importance of decarbonization for sure, and make it a priority for the company. We believe in the importance of ESG factors in business and decision making, but on the other hand, really corporate vision needs a buy-in, and needs to be embraced by all the employees from day-to-day operation, all the way from the operators at the plants, all the way to the plant managers, other functions, as well as executives. So in our case, we do have a solid success story of our reducing our recordable injury rates across the company over the last few years, where we had everyone else involved in the company, and that's a great success. So we're really modeling the decarbonization initiative based on that. So strong focus and leadership engagement by management, and as well as the rest of the team.
Yes, those are very important things. And then let's talk about your roadmap for decarbonization. What are some key points?
Yeah, for sure. The way, since we kicked it off, so the way we essentially set it up is a roadmap. So it consists of 5 pillars. The first pillar is replacing fossil fuels with biomass, alternative fuels. The second one is what we call energy efficiency. So this is how can we consume less fuel, so kilns are more efficient to begin with. And asset modernization is the third pillar. That is again replacing the old assets with newer assets. Circular model, and CO2 neutral production. So the first 3 are pretty self-explanatory. Our focus with respect to the circular economy is really finding opportunities to lower the CO2 footprint of our products with alternative raw materials, but also help our customers reduce their CO2 footprints as well. And the last pillar, I think this is, I'm very proud of this one because it really speaks to the CO2 neutral production. For a lime company, it sounds, outside this world, but we are actively working on developing new kilns with focus on CCUS. So we do have a technology arm, Tech for Lime. It's part of Carmeuse. So we do have a lot of R&D engineers actually working on developing methods, not only for carbon capture, but also utilization as well.
Very interesting. And also one of the pillars you mentioned, alternative fuels. So when we talk about biomass, what are some challenges there, and what's the potential of 100% biomass kiln? What's the next step?
Couple of challenges. One is availability. So right now, biomass is somehow available, but I can speak for Canada especially, or US moving forward, as the carbon tax increases, demand for alternative fuels will increase for sure. So I think the supply will be an issue. The other one is consistency. So consistent sourcing or good quality biomass is expensive. So it is just as important to I guess develop technologies to combust whatever is available, because alternative fuels or biomass will never be perfect fuel like natural gas. So those are 2 big ones. But moving forward, though, I can speak for lime industry. Cement is, I guess, somehow similar. We could replace a portion of fossil fuels with alternative fuels. But moving forward, I think the future will have to be about gasification, pyrolysis, where anything else could be burned and create some other value streams.
Yes, a lot of work in front of us. So I have to ask you this question. As the world is coming out of pandemic, we learned that the global CO2 levels have decreased. Is
Mhm.
that the case for your industry as well? And is that something that we can build on?
Yes, it is the case, but that's more of a functional demand for lime. There was a lot of shutdowns of car industry, which impacted the steel industry. So there was softening. I think there was decrease because of that. But I think what pandemic taught us was how to do more with less, and that applies to our process optimization as well. So I think I can tell that that's something we learned, and I imagine a lot of companies will feel the same because moving forward, I feel that the energy intensity will be lower for the industries. I have to say though, we have not one issue with COVID was just focus on CO2, right?
Mm,
It may not sound like the core business, but really, I can say at least I can speak for my company that we have not lost focus on that, and we kept up. So I guess, this is very telling for us that how important decarbonization is for
yeah,
us.
no, of course. And I know you're based in Canada.
Mhm.
And so just wanted to ask you, what interesting initiatives and projects can we observe in North America in
For
terms of?
sure, we do have. So part of our five pillar strategy, we do have a few projects lined up for the first three pillars. So we already started combusting some alternative fuels, some biomass in one of our plants, and we have plans to install equipment for the other two plants in Canada,
Mhm.
and US will follow for sure. But also on the efficiency improvement, there's a lot could be done that doesn't cost, in terms of optimization, quality control, process optimization. So there's a few things going on there. And asset modernization, we do have some large projects lined up in our portfolio to modernize some of the old pieces of equipment.
I have only a couple of questions left, Jem, and one of them is about policy because members talk a lot about regulation and policies. What are some main policy issues that are affecting the pathway to net zero for your company?
So my company is spread across Europe, North America, and uh, and and of course Far East Asia as well. But mostly, in Europe, we are already ahead in terms of because CO2 is nothing new in Europe. In Canada, as you know, Ontario has implemented a regulatory scheme. This is
Mhm.
probably, I mean, nothing new, but it put a price on carbon emissions. We don't have such regulations in place in the US, but we expect it will become reality, and
Yes.
especially after the elections, right? To add to that, though, one thing I can make this comment that to add to that, I have to say that there was a lot of regulatory uncertainty in Ontario with carbon pricing. When it was first implemented, it was provincial, turned to federal, which was a very different system the way it's taxed or calculated. Now we're back to a provincial system. It makes it really difficult for us to develop a strategy and
Mm.
satisfy the policy objectives. It was so different that even the formula was different, how the tax was calculated. So it makes it difficult to make business decisions. Hopefully, US will be ahead as
Yes.
they get to this point.
And the other question I wanted to ask you, it's about technologies.
Mhm.
When you make decisions which technology to go for, what is the main criteria for you? What are you focusing on that helps you to make those decisions?
So availability is one. I
Mhm.
think a good example is biomass. So if you look at our investments, current investments in biomass, it's
Mm.
more off-the-shelf technologies or the technologies we developed ourselves. So availability is one, but in terms of availability, our timeline is more like 2030. So from here till 2030, we do have projects lined up that we know the technology is available. After that point, though, we have some projects that in the scope at this point, the technology is not available yet.
Mm.
There's a lot of room for CCUS that needs to be developed, right? That's how we look at it. Probably availability, feasibility. We don't just look at the. It's not just simple NPV math because it's
Mm.
just strategic decision as well
Mm.
as CO2 tax as well, right? So there's a few few things to be looked at there.
Cem, what would be your final advice or wishes or expectations for DLN, for our network?
Well, first of all, really excited to be part of it. I'm also on the Founders Council, so
Yes.
it is a rather young organization, but it's a big need for sure. There's a lot of initiatives in terms of CO2 reduction on the mining industry. I'm familiar with that more on the utilizing on the electricity, but for industries like lime, cement, steel, glass, paper. You know, we are perfect definition of hard to abate industry. So we're in the business of essentially producing CO2, right? So I think DLN is going to come very handy bringing us together. The other one is I think worth mentioning is also what DLN is going to add value is maybe help us get some help from the or explain our case to the governments as well, because I think we'll get there with our regulations. And the last piece is financing. So it is important to have people who are in financing to be part of the DLN as well, which there's a few members. So very, very excited about it.
This is very valuable, Cem. Thank you so much. And for DLN members, Cem Gercek is a founding counselor of DLN and is helping us and advising us on how to grow and how to develop the network so it brings value to all the members. Thank you very much, Cem, and I look forward to seeing you later next week at the festival. Thank you.
Yeah, very much looking forward to it. Thanks so much, Aya.